Helen Nesterenko from written.com, and I'm joined today by Joe Pulizzi, author, speaker, and evangelist. People call him the godfather of content marketing. Joe, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Content marketing is on the rise. What are your industry expectations for the next few years?
So content marketing has been moving very fast, as you know. From 2007 when I really started talking about content marketing everywhere that would listen. It's changed so much from then. It's been so hot over the past couple of years, and what we've seen is more and more companies are creating a lot of what I would call bad content. You even put mediocre content as bad content. You've got everybody doing. They're trying to fill so many social media channels, and it's really quite cluttered out there. So how are you going to break through that clutter? And I think what you're seeing is a lot of companies, they're making a serious effort to put processes behind content marketing, really try to figure out how are we going to structure it internally, externally, how are we going to integrate it? Do we have to have it integrate with our PR department? Do we have to have it integrated with our corporate communication and marketing? So in the past, the content marketing group, or let's say the corporate publishing group, was back in a corner. Nobody cared about them. What they did was separate. If you had a custom magazine or a newsletter, it was completely separate. Now it's coming into the fold. It's part of the overall marketing mix, and I think what's really interesting to me is it's central. The story that you have as a company that you're telling your customers is now in the middle of everything you do in marketing. It's a big change. And it's also a political nightmare in most companies. So what we're really seeing is content marketing is growing up, which is great. We're starting to create processes around it. It's being mature, but we've got a lot of pain to go through to get to where we need to get to.
What types of content should a company create to be successful in 2013?
So the types of content that companies should create, I would say if you don't really have a good understanding of what I call a content marketing mission statement is, don't create any content. A lot of people think that, oh, Joe, you're out there promoting content marketing, you want people to create lots of content. That's absolutely not true. Most companies that are out there right now, I would like them to stop creating content because it's horrible. They're basically what you're seeing is a lot of companies are filling channels. And I completely understand why. We have so many channels that we feel as companies that we have to fill. So we're like, oh, how are we going to get this content? So let's go get that content. I think that companies need to take a step back and to figure out what are the real pain points of my customers, my readers, let's say. If we looked at them as readers, if we start thinking more like a media company and like a publisher and say, what are their pain points? And then we come back, that's first and primary, not our marketing objectives. Then we back into our marketing objectives. It's always done the other way around. We always say, okay, what are we trying to do from a marketing standpoint? And then, oh, let's create some content for that. No, that's not. You have to first start with the customer. It's basic marketing 101, but from a content marketing standpoint, most companies don't do it. So I'd say the one thing I would recommend is taking a step back, figure out what that mission statement is, similar to like if you were going to Inc. magazine. You know that their mission statement is basically for solutions and best practices so that entrepreneurs can grow. Small businesses can grow. That's their mission. That's all content is done around that. So as your company, you need to do the same thing and figure out what that is, and then you can figure out what kinds of stories, what kinds of channels, whether it's video and audio and SlideShare and all that other stuff, that comes second.
What marketing tactics are essential from a strategic perspective? What companies should do to be successful in the long run?
So let's pretend that a company already knows what their customers' informational needs are, what their pain points are, what keeps them up at night. Then you figure out, okay, what are my marketing objectives? And then from that, we can start looking at the storytelling strategies. I mean, first of all, there's a whole big strategy that goes on in this because we got to know what's the buying cycle of our customers, where they're at, what are their needs, how can we move them along the cycle, B2B, B2C, all that other stuff. But let's move past that for a second because the question you're asking is what kind of tactics? I really think that 2013 is going to be continuation of 12 for two things. One is visual. You've got to focus on what your visual storytelling strategy is. That means looking at channels such as SlideShare, really important. Pinterest maybe if you're B2C, but I think for B2B and B2C, SlideShare I think is going to be the channel. By the way, if you don't know SlideShare, SlideShare is the YouTube for PowerPoints. I think that it will grow like crazy in 2013 because I think it's underutilized right now. Only about 20% of all businesses have a SlideShare account in some way. So that will go into the future. That will really grow. The second thing is I think from a podcasting standpoint, we have just, I mean, it's for some reason it's been going on forever and all of a sudden this podcasting hit has just taken off. And I think what it has a lot to do with is Apple, when they changed their iOS, they added that little podcast button feature app. And it's really, even with the companies and the people that I talk to, it's amazing how many more people listen to podcasts because that little button is there. So now you've got more podcasts. So I think as a company, look at your visual channels, and that doesn't mean video. It doesn't have to mean video. It could just be how you're taking the textual content that you've been creating and create a visual story out of it. Similar to the way that you might see just an engaging looking PowerPoint. That's really good content. And then how can you get your thought leaders into an ongoing series of getting them as part of maybe a podcast series, or get influencers on an ongoing story around your business, around your customers' pain points, whatever. So I would look at those in 2013.
One of the biggest challenges for content marketers this year is creating enough content. What can content marketers do to overcome this challenge?
So creating enough content, when we did our research study a few months ago for Content Marketing Institute, that was the number one challenge, was producing enough content. I think that's good and bad. It could be producing enough content is good because we understand we have more buyer personas, we have more readers out there, we have to create different content strategies, which means we need more content. It also could mean, we have all these more channels, so we have to shove more content out there, and that's a problem. So I get a little bit scared when people say they need to create more content, because when we go in and we talk to mostly Fortune 1000 companies about their content strategy, most of the time the problem is not producing enough content. It's mostly they have to stop doing things and really focus on certain things. So I'd say first thing is, maybe it's not producing more content. Maybe it's really focusing on how to create really truly epic content, great content marketing. So I'd focus on that first. Then from a producing content standpoint, what I think is going to be a big trend in 2013 is co-creation. A good friend of mine, Andrew Davis, wrote a book called Brandscaping. Terrific book about content co-creation. So look at partners that you have that are targeting the same audience that you can partner with to create amazing content stories, efforts like that. So I think that is the huge trend that we've barely seen. It's been going on for a long, long time, but I think you'll see it in 2013. So look for partners to create that content when you're and then of course there's outsourcing, there's freelancers, those types of things have been going on. Those will continue. But I like the content co-creation idea.
Joe, thank you very much for sharing your insights. It was a very good interview. And thank you for watching Written.com.